Alright, hello everyone, welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. I'll just move my microphone today, obviously back for another chart stream. Nice Saturday, okay? I'm glad to be back. It's been a while. Hopefully you've all had a good weekend so far. You know, it's been okay for me. Market's been pretty good. And I'm pretty happy. I've missed you guys. I've been trying to sort some things out. Got some on Monday. I am recording. Another obviously in trenches thing, so we might try to shift it. I wanted to kind of shift it to Tuesday. Mike was saying leave it off, so might be Tuesday. Let you guys know obviously, but I'm glad to be back nonetheless. Hopefully it's all gone well so far for you guys. Obviously I do want to get straight into it. Obviously I know how much I yap. Okay, let me just start a timer before I forget. Okay, so liquidation data, get out of the way. There's nothing, you know, really important here for me to really look at. You know, it's just trying to see what it was like. Okay, so 24 hour 121.66 million. Okay, not too bad. All right, just nothing we've never seen before. Just get that out of the way. Just wanted to see if anything was interesting there. But right now, 111,679 for Bitcoin. It's been a while, like I said, since I was on stream last, and I was talking about obviously the charts. So obviously, I do want to kind of go over what I've talked about last stream, which was quite a while ago. I don't exactly remember when I left the stream last. It probably would have been about, you know, another a Tuesday or something, or we'll look like a bit earlier back in the week. I'll have a look when exactly I looked. So obviously I do have some stuff to cover, which obviously was pretty good. We did talk about a bit of a retracement for Bitcoin, and then you know, doing our own thing basically. So we'll cover it all again, and then obviously we'll go on to what we're doing, you know, during the rest of what we have right now, and so on and so forth. We did have data on Friday as well, which was pretty good. It did cause a little bit of move upwards, but not necessarily a catalyst for a, you know, a bull run move or anything, you know, crazy like that. It was just a little move upwards, so yeah, not too bad. But anyway, yeah, 111,677 right now, about 0.8% up, 24 hour, 4.48 up, 8% up on the 7 day, which is pretty good. Obviously, we've had quite a consistent uptick in Bitcoin so far, which has been pretty nice for Bitcoin, obviously, and 0.28 on the 1 hour. 39.55 for Ethereum, about 1% on the 24 hour, 1.7 on the 7 day. So, you know, not as big of a move upwards, but still had a bit of retracement anyways. Solana 194.84 on the 1 hour. Basically, what I don't really care about the 1 hour, or the 1 hour, because again, it's only really printed about 5 minutes ago. So about 1%, 24 hour, 4%. So pretty consistent across the board. Ethereum a bit less over the 7 day anyway. From what I can see anyway on the last 7 day kind of line graph, it does look like Ethereum came a bit deeper than Bitcoin and Solana anyway. So pretty good nonetheless. Going on to SERP, what we wanted it to do, we wanted it to come down. It has actually been quite a while since I've been on the stream. So I think we were talking about it coming down towards about 35-ish cents, towards some support, or to basically come down and find a low, and then come upwards again. And I think we've done that. So again, we have 2% move upwards from 38. So clearly we're moving up from somewhere. I think we have come down towards. I think we did come down. Let's go select the weekly. Yeah, I think we came down towards about 35-ish, 34, and then came up upwards again. So we did have that retracement on a SERP. And then the last thing I'll look at, even though I might not look at it later on, is CRO at 15.25. I don't exactly remember what we said, because again, it obviously has been a while. I can't exactly remember what we said on Kronos, so I'll just get into it and see what we can see. I will read the chat earlier to everyone. It's been a while. It's been about, you know, 5-ish minutes since I've read the chat. So good evening to you, Tariq. Thank you for being here. Shout out to you, SNK. Market feels overbought. Honestly, I will keep an eye for changes on Monday open. Yeah, I mean, obviously I will get onto, you know, I'll open the Bitcoin chart up quickly, and then we can have a look at it. But yeah, I was definitely looking in this sort of area. We do have this weekly resistance here. I'm looking a tiny bit higher though. I mean, again, it's pretty good in terms of structure, basically over like kind of this whole area. I think we're doing pretty well so far. I think we're doing pretty well structurally, especially you know throughout this kind of period, especially this period here. I know whatever caused the movement, I don't really care. The actual formation of it was really good, I think. So yeah, I think I remember talking about this on Tuesday. I think I streamed Tuesday. I'm pretty sure with my last stream. So I'm pretty happy with this so far, especially within this latest move of the low, the high, the low, the higher low, the higher high, all that. We haven't done anything significant here in terms of this. We did come quite low, and now we're just coming upwards. In terms of, I know people, there's been a lot of people talking about a head and shoulders here. I do see something a bit higher than here. We'll see how it goes again. I do want to look at some higher time frame. I have been looking at Bitcoin within today, or mostly today, yesterday, in the morning. So I've been looking a bit more lower time frame for my personal trading anyway. But I haven't actually looked at the weekly in a while since last stream, so I do want to see how that's going. But we did have that weekly close for the resistance, and obviously we have already talked about that. We'll go over it again on the weekly. But yeah, so thinking of a bot, yeah, I mean, again, we have had quite consistent move upwards so far. I wouldn't be surprised if we wanted to see some sort of retracement. Again, we've had that, multiple times. It's kind of clockwork. You kind of want to have that retracement anyway, so I can understand that point. I don't know if this exact price is going to be the stopping point. Again, we are at this weekly resistance. We are at resistance point. Again, we're not shy of coming up a tiny bit above it, and this is looking at a weekly resistance point on the 4 hour. So again, there's going to be some room for differential between the exact print and where we actually see resistance at. So yeah, but yeah, I can understand that. I do actually want to get into it. I haven't actually looked at the high time frames yet, so I do want to look at it live before I make my mind up. But yeah, even 2KB as well. Thank you for being here. Everyone's fed up with those not in Bitcoin. Yeah, I haven't actually looked. Again, I don't really look at much in my personal apart from Bitcoin. Maybe occasionally Ethereum, Solana. It's mainly just Bitcoin for me because obviously I have jumped around previously. A long time ago. Training in different methods. I have jumped around different coins, but it just gets a bit. You don't need to have 15 trades open. It obviously depends how you trade, depends what your strategy is, obviously. But I don't really jump around much like that. So I know there is something with maybe alts or something, but it's all right, majoritively from what I can see anyway. But again, we will get into it as the stream goes on. SK, where is Mike? It's me. All right, this is my stream. All right, Mike is here. Okay, he is talking in the chat. So if you did want to ask him something, he's there. But in terms of when it comes to the chart streams, it's moi. Okay, I am the guy on the charts right now. We're looking good in my opinion. Weekly close would be interesting. Yeah, I'll have a look. Obviously, I haven't actually looked at the weekly in a while. Obviously, we did look at it last stream in terms of where we printed below the weekly candle and looking at the resistance there, basically. So again, I will look at that literally in 30 seconds when I finish the chat. And CRO, yeah, I will look at CRO. Don't worry, I've only just started the stream, so we will get on through Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and we will look at CRO nearer the end. So if you do not care about anything other than CRO, go make a meal. Go make a drink, maybe watch like a 30-minute YouTube video. Go do something else. If you don't want to watch this, go do something maybe for about 40 minutes, maybe 50. Actually, if I'm going to be realistic here, give it the rest of the time. I'm at least going to spend 50 minutes over how much I would want to. I don't know why I bother trying to stick to an hour. I should just literally just stick to an hour and 15. I do not know why I try. So if you don't care about anything else other than CRO, you can if you want to watch, you can watch. But it will be near the end, so you will have to wait through Bitcoin and whatnot. Indeed was open for 1 second. Yeah, I've already covered it. Yeah, it was 1 second. That's it. That's all you're gonna get from me from CRO. No, I just wanted to see what the price was, but I will be looking at the actual chart in a second. So don't worry. Perfect. Yeah. I do want to look at the Square chat because it actually is on tonight, which is completely insane. I can't believe it's even open. It never works. Some evenings. From everybody, evening to you guys, all morning, obviously, time zones and whatnot. But hello to you, obviously. I would say, if you've got a coin you want me to cover, put it in the chat. But I'm a busy person. Okay, I'm an inefficient person. I speak a lot, and sometimes about not a lot. Sometimes I can spend way too much time speaking about nothing which really matters. And I've already got plenty of coins to cover. So I would say if you've got a coin for me to cover, I'll cover it. But yeah. We'll see. Okay, so what we have here, I've just moved it. Oops. Oh, I've moved it. Is it okay? It's a ray. Perfect. There we go. So we had that. We were talking about this. I know it's very messy. You know what? I'll hide it. Okay, it's ugly. Let's take a sigh of relief. All right, let's just breathe. Okay, all this baggage on the screen should get out of the way. So we were talking about this candle. Okay, the idea that we've come past these highs. Okay, we've worked past them. We didn't print. You know, it's the idea of okay, this is point of interest. All right, we've come past these highs and we haven't printed. This is not a great thing if we want to be going upwards towards 140. Clearly, obviously, light as day, we did not see that go upwards. Obviously, we had Trump and whatnot. So you know, whatever you want to blame it on, you can blame it on that. But we came past the highs and then obviously retraced. Basically during this candle, well actually no, pretty much during this candle, we've talked about both these candles, you know, we've had streams during both the weeks. Basically in this candle, the idea was, okay, we want to print past this candle. If we can print past this low, that is us receding past the low, that's us receding past this massive candle, coming from a point of interest, basically past the all-time high. So the idea is we would find resistance somewhere within this candle, is kind of the general gist of it anyway. So basically marking out that low is a good point to focus on. So as an idea, basically relative to the weekly, anyway, is going to be printing at that low, basically, seeing how we print, and if we're printing at that low, finding resistance and whatnot. So basically the idea is, if I, okay, just avert your eyes, I know it's messy, okay, you know what I'll do, I'll just go to a new chart. I can't go to that one. Okay, perfect, this will work. I'll just draw it on a new chart so you guys can see what I'm talking about, and it also means I don't have to delete anything. Okay, that's kind of in the way, is it? Okay, so that's the low. Okay, so that's the idea. Okay, we have that, we come past and come down. Okay, and then the idea is if we print past this low, we want to see some sort of resistance there. We would expect to see, in my opinion anyway, obviously not financial advice, we should expect to see some sort of resistance there. Okay, so slightly doing that right now. We have seen it hit off this price a few times. Obviously, I think we would have printed it on the Monday, so we would have printed it on this from here. So not using this here, we would have printed it from here onwards. So from about here onwards. So obviously we did use it once there. We did come up one more time. We did have this here, this price, which we have used previously over here. Obviously, I have talked about this price already. We have used it previously. We came back to it again, and then we had a retracement, obviously, from this massive, beautiful move upwards here. So obviously, having that, a very interesting area to want to come and kind of come up into it really, really gratefully, if you will. So, or grand. Weird words I'm using, but we want to come into this area. This is a optimum area for, okay, this might be an interesting area. I would expect us to retrace into this area in normal price action, and also bearing that in mind on the 4-hour anyway, we've had good structure so far in terms of, we're not necessarily in a downtrend or anything of that sort. We haven't printed past major lows. We haven't done anything of the sort. So I wouldn't be convinced that we're going to have a massive dump right now. Relative to where we are here, let's say if we were there, it's like, okay, cool, well, we've had a big old low here, had a retracement, coming past some of these relative highs over here, had a retracement, didn't come past this low, had a really nice low here, and then had a massive move upwards, printing past this high. Even if you're ignoring all this previous price action, this move is literally just kind of confirming the idea that we're not really in a downtrend or as such. And then we have this, obviously we have these major lows. We want to print past those lows if we're going to be in a downtrend, and we didn't do so. We just came and came past the lows, wicked past them, didn't print, perfectly fine, whatever. And then we come upwards. So we haven't done anything significant on this time frame. Yeah, maybe on the 1 hour we might have printed, and it's done our thing. But it depends on what you're really looking at. If you train the 15-minute, you train whatever you're doing. But I'm looking at the 4 hour here, and in my opinion, on the 4 hour, we haven't done anything really too badly. So the idea is, even if this would be a resistance area in concept, I still want to see us come quite deep into it anyway, just as a general. But it kind of sows the seeds of the idea that, okay, well, we have this theoretical area of resistance from this low here, which we have obviously printed past, and has reason to find resistance there. So using that idea, okay, we can kind of put this in our heads and go, okay, cool, we have a reason. We have a reason there. Great. Daily, I haven't actually looked at daily yet. I mean, again, daily isn't that bad. We have technically printed. I mean, no, this is the argument I had on Tuesday. I was like, okay, well, even though we've had this low and we've produced this low, if we print past this low, is this a bad thing? Is it now printing past this low, or is it printing past this low? Because the idea is, technically, we haven't printed past this low with this low on the prints anyway. So technically, this is the low, or now this could be the low where we printed. So if we printed down, have we printed past these lows, or have we not printed past these lows? Is the argument there? So this is something obviously we will see as we go. But anyway, that's a different conversation. I'm looking at the 4 hour here, and the 4 hour for me It's pretty good. So, you know, again, even though we are in a good move upwards right now, we are doing our thing, you know, coming upwards for Bitcoin. It's still, you know, there's still kind of the balance between, are we going upwards still? Are we still at the same rate of positivity that we were at, you know, near the bottom, or are we starting to see some reasons why we could stop? Well, I think firstly for me would be obviously where we're going to print with the weekly, because again we've had this move, you know, we've moved past this high, you know, here with all this, and especially this one moving past this high, and then we've come down and moved past this low. So this should realistically be some area of resistance. So, and we can kind of, even though we haven't printed yet, for the entire weekly candle, we have wicked upward, yes. We have been staying below this, or within this resistance area, especially twice now. You know, even though we had this moment, which formed that wick, as we see on the weekly, even though we're staying here, we did come upwards above it, yes, that will admit, and we did see resistance again. But we have been sticking with this resistance for a while now. I'm not saying we haven't reversed yet, we haven't come down like this, but we have stayed here previously and used it as resistance. So we're respecting it relatively, especially on the 4 hour as well. Coming from a weekly resistance to the 4 hour, we are still using it pretty nicely. So the idea that, okay, yes, we are still in as a move upwards, but on the same, you know, on the same coin, you flip it, it's like, okay, well, this is resistance, you know. So the idea that we don't necessarily, you know, we don't want to necessarily completely ignore it as, oh, well, it's a weekly resistance, we don't want to pay attention to it on the 4 hour. You know what I mean? I've made this mistake before. You know, I've made this mistake before, as you may know if you've been on my stream. You know, I made this mistake over here where we had support right here on the weekly. I go, weekly support, what are we talking about over here? Clearly we have this gap here, clearly we're going to dump, and we didn't. So I'm not making that mistake again, okay? We have that resistance, and I'm gonna use it. So we do have that. So there's that balance between, we are still in a uptrend right now, we're still moving upwards on the 4 hour, however we are at resistance area where we could potentially see some reason to stop. Now what I will say about this though, to be kind of devil's advocate, is this is the range of resistance, okay? This is resistance range. We could probably go to the daily and find it a bit enhanced. You know, we could find an area in here which has, you know, which zoomed in a bit on where the resistance is, because again, that weekly is this whole range here. So it would be either the low of it or the middle of it. So we can come higher. So on the idea that we have that resistance, let me just draw a little, I don't even know what this is. I just want to get the midpoint of it. Okay, I don't really care what I'm actually using. So the idea that we have, that we can come to the midpoint as well. And the thing about this as well is we have this massive dump. Now, we haven't filled the whole thing. We don't have to say. We don't have to fill the entire thing, but you know, this is a sell area. It's not just a one and done thing. It's like, you know, when you find your support points, resistance points, you know, on a surface level TA method. Let's say you've just started TA, you know, you've had your support and resistance. You can come to these areas multiple times, and it's the same concept. You know, it's like, even though we come into these areas, it's not a general scenario where, in theory, again, this is something I'm still on the fence about. I have talked about this in my previous streams, where, you know, is this something where you come into these areas and that's it? Or is it a general resistance area? So that is, you know, something I will say. But regardless of, you know, if it is or not, this is still outstanding. You know what I mean? Like, regardless of if we come to it or not, different scenarios, we do have something there. So I would still be happy if we came up to there. You know, I'm not saying we will. Again, this is just a theoretical. But obviously, before I give my final verdict on Bitcoin, we move on to Ethereum and Solana. I wouldn't mind if we came upwards, okay? I wouldn't mind. We still have reason to stop even if we come upwards. And on the idea that we've had this move upwards, move down, move upwards, and then we've printed lower, longer term, relative to, like, even though, like, yes, we've had this, like, from the highs to the low, we have had that retracement to equilibrium, and we have had this before. It's not really much of a, you know, in terms of structurally, I think we could come upwards again. You know what I mean? We could come upwards again. We've had this major low. We've done another major low, and it's higher. Okay, so on that concept, we could come up again. But again, I don't want to ignore weekly resistance. But the idea that weekly resistance midpoints here on the daily, we have this massive old gap which we could continue to trek upwards towards. We could have that. Okay, but just talking about the current range we have here, I've done this previously. You know, we talked about this current range versus previous price action. Even though the range, you know, in certain scenarios was up or down, especially when we were talking here, it's a lot easier for me to talk about the current range we're in, ignoring this. I hate when that happens. Ignoring this gargantuan price action we had over here, which obviously we have been using previously. So again, even on the 4 hour, you can still see the different areas we have on the way. On the way upwards. So in terms of what we're doing, I do see that move upwards. But I'm not all positive on the 4 hour. You know what I mean? Like, we are at resistance. I would expect us to come downwards again. And in terms of where we have support, there's not a massive there's not a massive area here. What I will say though, to be fair, in terms of this relative area, we are starting to kind of print above that low of this candle, which kind of forms this resistance here. So we could potentially go a bit higher. We have had a very strong resistance point previously, which obviously we've used once. We've obviously used again here. So that is more than happy. We also have this whole area here, which sits here, which we can, we kind of came into a bit. If I draw this along, it's the same. It's kind of the same line realistically. So, we do still have that to pay attention to as well for Bitcoin. If I just draw this quickly out, this is what we have left of that range, just to kind of show as an example. So there is still some left over here. We do have basically this area I will say is just massive resistance. We came into a sell area here with forming resistance and obviously forming more gaps to displace downwards after we fill the rest of this range. So this is a very interesting area. This is a very high strength area for me personally on Bitcoin. Now, what I will say, we are on Saturday, so the last thing I'll do before I move on, after I'm saying, oh yeah, well, even though we're in an uptrend, we are at resistance. So, I've said this before my streams. I would expect us to move continuously. We continue to go upwards until we have reason to stop going upwards. We go down until we have reason to stop going downwards. So the concept of, we are in an uptrend right now, as I said when we first started talking about Bitcoin, and I don't want to ride that off. We are still going upwards. All things, continuing right now. We are doing highs and lows. Okay, higher highs and higher lows. I shouldn't write that off. We should continue to do that. And then obviously the second part of that statement, until proven otherwise, we need to find the reason to stop going upwards. And I think as we go on, so for example, down here, it's like, okay, we could go upwards. We are at the very bottom of this whole area. We've had this massive move upwards, found resistance, and massive move downwards into this kind of whole equal area here. I want to see retracing up here. So the same concept I've just said, applied to over here would be, I want to see us go upwards to fill this area. So the concept of this would be, okay, well, we've got this weekly support point, or in this case resistance, I should say, not support, with this weekly resistance point, and we have this massive potential sell area. So the concept would be, okay, where's the resistance in this area? Because you want to have confidence on this. Where's this stacked area of attention? So for example, we have this move with this high. We kind of take this high and then dump. So potentially there could be resistance here in this little candle. So there is resistance there, to be fair. So obviously we did see that kind of once here and then come down, but obviously we're continuing upwards. But the main area, not to kind of beat around the bush, will be the purple area, the purple line, okay, which is that weekly resistance. So the concept of, okay, where's the resistance is stacked? It would be potential sell area and then weekly resistance. So from the concept down here, same thing I just said, I want to see us go upwards, and that, until proven otherwise, for me would be the top end of this resistance, relative just to the 4 hour and the high time frame. What I will say, I did have this drawn, I'll draw it again though, is we do have some other areas we do have some higher areas here, for example at I did not delete. There we go. There it is. So that 112 300. Okay, so we do have that as we are coming upwards, which is what I've been watching. I was watching this earlier today. Us coming upwards. I think we might have been down here. No, we weren't down here. We were in this area here. I think it might have been in the morning sometime. And I was like, okay, well, looking at it, we haven't finished going upwards. I don't think we'll finish going upwards, even though we are at resistance now. It's as soon as you get resistance, it's not a guaranteed 100%. Oh yeah, as soon as we hit 111.554, we're guaranteed to come downwards. We are in resistance now. I want to see what we do to find reason to reverse, and then respect the idea that we're at resistance on the higher time frame and are starting to come downwards. So for me, I was looking at 112 300, obviously waiting for that. We're still doing our thing right now, and to be fair, we have printed past this low right now on the 1 hour, doing our thing, but we've done that previously here and continue to go upwards. And so far on the 4 hour, we're doing absolutely fine. So I don't think we're done just yet on this move upwards. Obviously, not financial advice. But so I do either way expect us to continue upwards a tiny bit more, but we are coming to an area of resistance. Now, the last thing I will do before I move on, I'm trying to get through Ethereum and Solana, because again, I know I talk a lot. Obviously, we do have resistance. I think this is a guaranteed resistance area. We've used it twice before, really perfectly. We had this breaker block here. We've tickled onto it, dumped. Barely didn't even print on it, barely even tickled it, absolutely dumped again. Also coming into this gap. So we have this gap here, and look at the response from this. We have this massive pump. Oh, here we go. Here we go to the moon. 140k. Here we come. We glanced at this area, and then we immediately dumped, printing past this. It was immediate. So it might, I think this is a very high probable resistance area. So regardless, the highest stretched area I would expect is 114.5. So obviously bearing that in mind. So what I will do before I end off, I want to see how we're doing within this this idea. So what I think I left off with on Tuesday was I want to see price retrace into this. I said this on Ethereum and Solana as well. What I said on the Tuesday stream was I want to see, because obviously this I was using some examples back here as well of the same concepts of the idea that I want to see price retrace into this candle on a candle by candle basis, not just on ranges. I want to see price retrace into this candle, but ultimately potentially print at resistance here on the weekly candle. And that's why I kind of said Tuesday, and we've been doing that throughout the week, obviously. Even though, to be fair, this candle was on Tuesday, so I think it was kind of a retrospective thing I said. But basically, the idea we retrace into this candle and then come back downwards here. So within that, obviously, we've kind of done that, and now we've retraced back down. Potentially not quite printed yet on this resistance, but again, we have day in 5 hours. Depends how we print within Sunday and whatnot. But I definitely think the weekly print will still be important, especially if we've formed this resistance with these two candles, retraced and printed below that low of this candle. I definitely think we could see that as resistance. But obviously, bearing in mind we've had pretty good prints. We haven't quite printed past this low, especially with this candle, on the idea that, okay, especially if we've come from this massive high, I want to see it continue downwards through these lows. But I think, especially in this candle, it was a very significant candle of the idea that this was a lot of things stacked up onto this candle. Again, there was categorical or not, whatever you want to look at, whether what caused this move was the fact that we, because again, looking at this candle, coming past this high and printing below the high and not printing a new high is not a very good sign. You know what I mean? So whether this formed from Trump or formed from price action, it still was multiplied, if you will, I guess, expanded by what obviously the Trump scenario with China and what he did, which was not very nice, Mr. Trump. So I do definitely think that low is very extreme for this. Obviously, we did come to that support area quite nicely within this low, especially. But I do want to see it kind of come past these lows if we're going to see us move down, and we haven't quite done that yet. Regardless of how this is formed, we haven't done that yet. So it's not all negative, but we are definitely at resistance. So I want to see how the weekly prints, especially, or going into Monday. But I do have some sort of resistance within that 4-hour area here. I do think we can come up into this area. I don't think this is going to be a catalyst for us to come all the way towards 105, 104. But I do definitely think it could allow us to retrace a bit, especially for the scenario that we haven't really had a retracement within this whole move. We haven't had a major retracement. So within this, I do want to see it come down a bit for Bitcoin, just relative to what we have on the 4-hour. And that adds confidence to what we kind of have on the weekly, where we kind of are at this potential resistance point here. But again, like I said, on the flip side, the low doesn't have to be necessarily the exact resistance point. Again, this is a weekly range here. It's very, very high, and it doesn't write off completely that we have this area here. So I'm not super. I'm relatively negative right now, but I want to see again. I want to see how the weekly prints. I want to see how we do, and I want to see is it going to mean we can come upwards or not. But so far right now, what I have with the 4-hour and what we have with the weekly, and especially this range on the 1-hour, it's still not necessarily super. It could mean we could retrace, but again, and this is why I'm saying I'm not fully negative, I'm not fully positive, because this retracement I think would mean a higher low. So I don't think this is going to be us over. I just think it might mean we print negative on the weekly in terms of if we print with this, if we print at below this line at 111.5, aka the weekly resistance. I do think we can retrace. I don't necessarily think, like I said, it means we go to 103. I just think, especially within this range, as we've been going upwards, we could do a higher low. However, we haven't done a higher high yet. You know what I mean? So it's a toss-up. It's a balance. It's like, okay, we are in an uptrend here. We are at resistance, and if we start to see resistance, we could come downwards. And if we don't find a higher low here, it will necessarily mean we've reversed. We haven't done that new high, and we could start to come downwards a bit more for Bitcoin. So there is that to watch out for. But that will happen over the week. Obviously, I will be keeping it with Bitcoin as it goes, So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I regardless of exactly how it formates, exactly what it means for the future of Bitcoin, I want to see that higher low if we were to be continuing upwards. However, the stacked idea of we are at resistance, or we've been in a resistance area, we're at resistance with the purple line, we're potentially coming up towards this resistance at 112.3. It's kind of stacked in the idea that I'm not fully positive for Bitcoin. But again, I could be wrong. Again, not financial advice. Let me read the chat. I have not read the chat. There's actually some people in Square. You know what? I'll read the Square. I know YouTube. I know I read. Is my stream moving on anymore? Is it lagging? I don't know. Let's see. Actually, I haven't looked at the market calendar. Is anything going on during next week? I actually don't know. I should probably look. I see people. Mr. AK, close my live to hear you. Appreciate it. Also, they're so low. Yeah, I've heard that. Obviously, I heard that. Obviously, KK was talking to Telegram. Alts are bleeding. I haven't really looked. Again, it's Bitcoin Ethereum Solana for me. I haven't really looked. I mean, Strip's not doing too badly. Obviously, again, this is the thing. It's like, you know what I mean. Yeah. Anyway, let me just call this. Not really much, but anyway, YouTube people, let's see what you're doing. Okay. Okay. What YouTube is currently full of crap. I would recommend an old school web search if anyone wants to know anything nowadays. Yeah, I mean it depends. YouTube, it's money first. Realistically, you know, it's money first. It depends on where you're going online as well. A lot of the websites, there's a lot of crypto websites out there are crap. I remember the days of when we were going to the office very, very consistently and doing the actual like news streams in the office, and it was the amount of websites there which just sucked. You know, there's so much crap out there which are just trying to shill a coin or whatever. So there's crap out there, but I mean Google does a good job of like kind of filtering that. I think X isn't that bad. You know, I do think X isn't that bad. There's quite a lot of shillers, especially in crypto. It depends on what market of crypto you're trying to look at for X. If you're just trying to look at news, there's tons of good accounts out there for X which will just tweet out something which has happened out there. Again, if you're searching something specific, the internet, obviously, just searching on Google is majoritively okay. There are crap websites out there, and again, like I said, there's tons of crap X accounts out there. So, you know, again, it does depend on what exactly you are looking for. But again, obviously, as Mike said, YouTube is clickbait. I think YouTube definitely rates a bit low, runged down on the ladder of quality crypto content that it is, unless you're looking at the top people or us. Obviously, you know, I'm not trying to be biased here. Obviously, if you're looking at us, you know, there's people here in the chat who have been in these streams before. I don't think I've shilled anything in these streams ever. I mean, there's not really much for me to shill. I just look at the charts and then I move on, and then we just do another stream. We obviously do our quizzes, I suppose, but you know, we don't really shill anything there either. There are some gems out there. It all depends on what you have to. Yeah, exactly. Max, even to you, thank you for being here. Appreciate it. I cannot scroll down on my YouTube chat. There we go. Just got 4 hour close through the liquidity gap balance and then send it higher and back up. So like a higher low. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm talking about. That's the thing, because it's the same with kind of these inverted gaps. It's the idea that these are a range. Like, so I know you're talking about this. You know, and this is kind of what I was talking about. And the idea that we've printed above it here. So, and this is the thing for me is what I have with 112.3 isn't a long-term resistance. And what I was saying when I left off, even if we see move downwards, I think it was for us to do a high or a higher low. Okay, so I think now that we've printed through this, and this thing is like we came up, had a massive gap, found resistance again, dumped through, printed through. Oh, we could see resistance, and yes, we did come to it here. We didn't print through, came down a bit, found support again, came upwards. Okay, so we have seen a bit of resistance here, but now that we've printed through it again, I know it's like, oh well, you know, how is it going to be good support? How's it going to be good resistance? Well, number one, we're moving upwards. Okay, we dumped from this resistance. Okay, I will say that we did dump from this resistance, and we printed through it. But we are still in an uptrend. Even though we dumped from this resistance, we didn't produce a lower high. We're still coming upwards. So the idea that we should still be in this phase of us coming upwards. Obviously, I know there's a lot of people talking about this. Okay. Now, what I will say with this, like I said, we've left off, and I don't want to keep on talking about Bitcoin. I didn't even move on to Ethereum and Solana. That this, for me, if we do see some sort of resistance there, it'll only be for us to find a new low. And obviously for the idea of 50%, it wouldn't be any lower. It wouldn't have to necessarily be any lower than towards about 109.5 realistically. It wouldn't have to be that low. Now the fact that we've reversed this could mean that we could see this as support again, which makes perfect sense. So the idea, obviously, we flip some of these areas. We could potentially see this as support as well. I want to see some sort of support in this previous area. Obviously, I have looked previously on the 1 hour. There, I think there is something I saw on my other chart which I marked out. And I don't know exactly which time frame I saw it on, but we do have support there. So again, like I said before I left off, and I will leave off again with Bitcoin, I do think we do have lower time frame resistance here, which we could potentially see something at, but I don't think it would be, like I said, it wouldn't be a catalyst for us to go towards 103. It would only be for us to find a higher low. Anyway, moving on. My keyboard, you can tell when I'm not on my desk yet. Yeah. Well, with 100% win rate, opens 165 Bitcoin long and 131 Ethereum long. Baron longs, yeah. I mean, this thing, it's like it's what makes me sad about the Trump stuff and the fact that there's clear as day. There's someone telling someone else what's going on. Clear as day. Someone's telling someone else. Okay, because obviously Trump himself isn't going to be trading. People who are actually in those positions of power isn't exactly going to be trading. It's going to be like, unless the bathrooms in the White House are tapped, they're probably just going to the toilet, you know, and speaking with each other. Like, oh yeah, do this quickly. We'll, exactly 2 minutes before 4 p.m. we're gonna announce something you on a shore by then. You know, it's just, but it's like this account opened 30 minutes before, shorted the entirety of their entire account on one thing 2 minutes before Trump did something, and that same account has been doing the exact same thing ever since. And Trump's going, actually, guys, we don't want to do this. Actually, guys, we are going to do this. And it's just like back and forward, back and forward. It's like, it's just clear as day. It's he's literally just farming. He's farming. And eventually he's going to stop farming. He's got enough money and we'll move on. And then everyone will forget, and that's it. And he'll make all his money. But again, Nancy Pelosi's been doing it for ages, so she can do it. I'm sure everyone else can do it. So yeah. Man needs to learn to trade and get off a better entry. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this thing, it's like, you know what? He's made more money than like it even matters. So it's like, you know what? You either learn how to trade, or your dad can literally affect the market. I wish we could have that at Crypto Warehouse. You know, we could put a video out, something happens, and I short. Mike puts out a video, and you know we make, because that realistically, you know, if he entered $500 above or below when he shorted it, I don't care. All right, he's made however much money it is. So you know what I mean. Whatever. He's already up 1.5 million. That's crazy. That is crazy. I see a tweet. What is this tweet? What is this tweet he's put up? Okay, let me put it on my other browser before it's something dodgy. Is this the trade? Okay, right. So this is the tweet. Thank you for putting the tweet out. I like looking at the tweets on the stream as well. It gives a bit more information. So Bitcoin whale with 100% win rate just opened a 165 million Bitcoin long. Okay, so that's him. I don't know what his trade history is, but yeah, there you go. So he might know something. But I mean, there's been so many professionals out there who know something and they've been getting it wrong. So, I mean, again, to risk that much money, what is it? Is it? Let's see. Is it cross? I cannot see on this. Anyway, whatever. But clearly, he might know something. Maybe he might know something. I actually don't know. Is this the same wallet as the one which opened up 20 minutes before Trump announced something near the weekend and dumped the market? Is that is this the same account? I don't know. Maybe it's a different account. I don't know what the history of this account is, but clearly he might know something. I wouldn't take much notice of this, to be fair, or to be honest. They could take it in and out quick, or get seriously... Yeah, James Wynn liquidation. I've been watching it on Twitter. It's like, just pack it in, all right? Pack it in. But it's the same as the order book. I mean, I think, because obviously, I know some people use bookmap and stuff, and for a time I was like, let me see what bookmap is. Let me see all these people are talking about bookmap. What's this? Oh, I can tell what the market's about to do before the market does it. And it's like, you look at it, it's like, these are people opening orders. It's like, you could just open the order and then close it again. And then that's it, really. It's not something set in stone. I would rather look at like open interest data, cumulative volume delta, obviously funding rate, funding rate with open interest, or CVD with open interest, stuff like that. I think that's the only thing, because obviously you can use data to trade. I mean, people have been doing that. People were trading just with volume in the, whatever year, I don't know, a long time ago. Okay, before TradingView was out there. There's a time before TradingView, guys. Time before charts. People were trading just with volume and probably knowledge and brain. So it's like you can do it with data. People do it with data. quant dev. Obviously, there's probably models, which maybe it depends. Maybe time might use time as well, time and price. But I mean, most models, they're just based on data, and they do fine, you know. So it's like you can trade based off data. So I think the only thing for me, like, yeah, okay, you got RSI, whatever, right? But I think the one which interests me the most, which I don't really look at too much, is definitely open interest and CVD or like funding rate, that sort of stuff. Because it's kind of like, it doesn't tell you, oh, here's an indicator. It tells you when to long term, when to short, but it gives you a good indication of how the market's doing. And to be fair, it's not that bad, you know. And I've had times a long time ago on the streams, and I haven't really done it in a while, but made a little indicator which tried to map out the liquidation points of certain leverage amounts. And you know what? It wasn't that bad. For the time being, I was using it. Open interest, community volt and delta, and that it wasn't that bad at finding those highs and lows. So you can definitely use it. I mean, people do anything, but you know, risk management. Error going crazy. I can maybe look. One man's loss is another man's profit. Again, I think many men's losses was one man's profit at this rate. I want to demyth the claim about the insider. Probably some funded trader or some company. So many people claiming inside trading without understanding market aggregation. People believe what value their insecurities most. Yeah, I mean, spit the knowledge, please, KB, the professional. What I'll do, I will move on to Ethereum quickly, and then I can, I'll read the chat again. My camera's gone blue, which is not great. Okay, so I don't remember exactly what we talked about. I think I remember I think I was talking about us doing a move upwards, but it wasn't above here. What did I say? What did I say? I can't remember. I know what, I need to draw better charts, is what I need to do. I think I remember talking about us coming up again, and then coming downwards, for not like a super high, but like a high, a general high. I think, but I mean, that was Tuesday. I mean, that was Tuesday already. I don't know. Maybe I must have been talking on Saturday about us coming up again. I think we did that, and then Tuesday was that moment. We talked about us during here, and then maybe retracing upwards to find resistance. So from there, we can kind of look at that. So let's see the 1 hour. So what do we have? We had this little guy over here. We had the main one, basically. And then what we've had here, we had this high. We took this high and dumped here. So we do have resistance within this candle. I'm going to do the high of the candle, which I think, or the open of the candle. I've been seeing a lot of videos really talking about the difference between them. And I'm going to try it out, just see the consistency of it. But anyway, looking at that candle, obviously printing through it here with this main area here, coming through this high with this move, and then dumping down. So clearly the idea of resistance realistically. We've ripped to it and then come down again. But again, regardless of what exactly we're doing, we are still in this uptrend, still going strong. Our low of this move was this previous support we've had for quite a while now, which we've been coming into these areas quite consistently and finding support there. Anyway, we've had this, I believe was a daily support with this, daily support with this here. Obviously, in terms of the open, we printed quite nicely, but again, obviously, came quite deep. But the main support kind of just realistically pretty much just looks at that, the daily support we've had for a long time anyway, which we've been using pretty nicely. Again, we printed it here, obviously, and again, same idea here, you know, the idea that it's not just a one and done thing, it can be used multiple times. Used it here and then used it here again. So a good buy area, which we've seen twice roughly. Again, obviously we were out by maybe, actually out by quite a bit, I mean, to be fair, 2% out. Anyway, but it's printing quite nicely. It's printing. I don't care about the wicks. I don't care about wicks. I do care about wicks in this case. Look at this wick. But anyway, you know, we coming into this general area. I think that's the bottom of the support point, or the so it's this kind of general area. So it's actually not. It's actually not a range. It's more so about this. But this, again, this ranges this entire area here, to be fair. So, you know, anyway, this main line at 3722 is kind of the main area anyway, because this is the bottom of the gap. It's not really a line to focus on. So it's mainly this one. We can see we came into it and then came upwards. This actually would be probably a great support point for a rejection block here, but whatever. So coming upwards, obviously finding that low, producing higher lows. And again, this is the thing I've been saying on Bitcoin. Even though I might say something negative on the 4 hour, the 1 hour, I think ultimately I'm not that negative across the market, because again, we've had these lows, and this is the hardest thing, is talking about this low, because any other low, it's very easy to go upwards. And you can see we've had a real nice move upwards. You know, we've had a high, we've come upwards, had a low, we haven't printed past that low, pretty good. We've come upwards, we haven't quite printed past these highs. So, you know, we can see we've kind of come upwards. We haven't kind of moved down, move upwards, move down. We haven't printed past this high necessarily, but we haven't printed past the low. So we're kind of in this range. And the same thing with Bitcoin as well. It's like, if we're not printing past that low, the major low, which is 109 or whatever it is, we're still in this uptrend. So I'm not concerned, even if we do find some sort of resistance and retrace and then continue upwards. I don't care if we haven't quite got past that high yet, because the real big confirmation, because you can have changes in states, you can print through candle bodies, whatever, right? But the main kind of formation of, okay, are we changing to go downwards or upwards long term, is going to be in an uptrend. In this case, it's failing to have that high and then printing past that low. So if I see us, so for example this, okay, this one here, I see us wick past this high. You know, we have this high here, we've come upwards, we failed to get past this. You know, we've come upwards, found support in this previous support here. Obviously we had this order block here, found support again, okay? We've come upwards, we have this high, we have these two highs here, these two kind of relative equal highs. We've wicked past them and started to dump. It's like, okay, this isn't great. We haven't done a new high, we haven't printed past these highs, we aren't continuing this move upwards. But so it's like, okay, great. So we know we have that. So we could expect us to move downwards, which again we did do perfectly fine. And then the second step of the two-step phase, failed to print a high, print a new low, okay, or print through an old low. That's the old low. So it's, if we're not printing through 3673, so then again we have reason to go down until we stop. So it's like, if we didn't have previous daily support, this area here, and we didn't have this old daily support here, it's like, okay, so we have nothing in our way to stop us continuing to go downwards. So in that case, it's very easy for us to get towards that low and potentially print. But in this case, we had quite a bit of support at around the 3,750 area. So we found support and we came upwards. So we haven't done that new low. So we're, as far as I'm concerned, still more than happily going upwards. So, you know what I mean? So I'm not really too concerned. Even though we are at weekly resistances, obviously we talked about the idea of weekly... But actually, this is a weekly support, to be fair. So, differently to Bitcoin, if we're printing above 3,941, which we've done here, we could potentially do here, you can see we're using this support really nicely. So, I'm actually decently okay about Ethereum right now. You know, relative to the weekly, as we're printing, we're doing pretty fine right now on Ethereum, absolutely. Holding this, again, we have dipped low, we have dipped up. Looking at the 1 hour relative to weekly, it's not going to be relative, again. You know what I mean? It's just not going to compare as closely. Like, we can dip lower, that's fine. But in terms of the strongest thing I will be looking at is using a weekly support relative to the weekly will be the strongest one, in my opinion. So again, if we print that during coming into Monday, that'll be super strong. You know, especially if we go to the weekly, we have, you know, we have this kind of major low. We have this candle coming downwards, coming into all this we had here, obviously coming to support, failing to print this low, and then we have this candle, which is even smaller, failing to get past this low at 3,690, and we are printing above this support even closer. I could expect us to start to come upwards for Ethereum, absolutely. So that's kind of what we have on the weekly here. It's similar to what we have with Bitcoin. It's like, okay, you know, even though relative to what we do have resistance. So it depends on how we print on the Monday on the longer term for Bitcoin. So, you know, we'll see how it goes. But anyway, relative to what we have on the 4 hour, we had that resistance. We kind of came upwards, but majoritively we have come up into this area. We haven't printed through this candle or through this wick anyway. So, you know, still kind of holding this as a potential area to be used. But you know, we're still in an uptrend. You know, we're still doing our thing. We still have this low to this high, you know, coming upwards. We haven't had, you know, from the low to the high, we haven't had that main retracement yet into a main area or anything of the sort. We do have kind of these two gaps here coming upwards. We've come into this area with this massive wick, which is printed upwards, and you can see we found support in this area. So we do have something within this candle, you know, within this wick area. We did also have this this lower move, which hasn't formed anything here. Again, we haven't printed through this down close, which comes into this gap. We haven't printed. This was during the data which came out on Friday, so we did have this massive wick, but we didn't print through this high. We haven't formed support in this area necessarily, so we can't really look at anything in here. So lowest we have, we could potentially see something in this candle's wick here. So obviously just marking out the high of that as a extreme case of support, and even from there, it's like, where is that support being held? That is even below equilibrium. So I could potentially see, even if we do potentially use resistance or not, whatever exactly we're going to be using. We did also use this previously as well with this, obviously then wicking upwards one more time before continuing downwards as well. So we could potentially see some resistance, especially if we have this high and then we don't really get above this high here. It obviously won't be too great on the idea that we're going to get past this high. We haven't printed a new low, so not anything to be concerned about, but I could definitely see us come downwards towards finding a bit of a support point for Ethereum. And this is very similar to what I'm saying with Bitcoin as well, so it kind of gives a bit more, not confidence, but the idea that I would like to be saying the same thing across the board, because it kind of gives it confidence. Because again, Bitcoin isn't Ethereum, Ethereum isn't Bitcoin, but on the idea, on a market move as a whole, it's a nicer thing to go, okay, well, I think most coins are going to be moving in this direction, or most coins are going to be doing this XYZ thing. So it'd be nice to do that. But again, I think long term, like over the rest of today and tomorrow, I want to see it have that new low and go upwards, okay? Because if we can print above this weekly support point, coming into Monday for Ethereum, that'll be a very positive thing for Ethereum, okay? So similar to how I was saying with Bitcoin, as we get close to the weekends on pretty much every candle, the weekly print is also very, very important to how we do. So I do want to see us print above 3941. Just how Bitcoin is, like, if we start to see printing below that low of that weekly resistance, I don't think that's a long-term great thing to see on the long term for Bitcoin. It doesn't necessarily mean we can't go up on the 1 hour, the 4 hour, or the daily, but it's not a strong thing. But obviously on the flip side with Ethereum, if we start to see that us print at this 3941 and see support, I'll be very, very happy. So yeah, right now we could continue back upwards in terms of relative to the 1 hour, really close to what we're doing. We do have these highs which kind of moved past. We do have this equal, so I do think we can come up even more. We're pretty the way we're printing, the way we're moving quite strong. Again, a lot of these moves on the green on the way upwards are the displacements are very large, very small retracements. Displacement, small retracement. Obviously slowed down here into this beautiful rejection block here, I will say. Beautiful rejection block here, hitting on that 75% point pretty closely. We do have a rejection block, but again, it's not a super strong. It's not like it's going to keep us down forever. This isn't some weak thing. I could potentially see something here. We came into resistance, had a massive move back downwards, smaller print here. We could potentially see some sort of resistance within this wick if I draw that properly. I'm trying this out. I don't know if this is. I might not use this. It might be a bunch of balls, a bunch of crap which doesn't exist. It might just be some Wally crap stuff, but whatever. I will draw this across again, even though we've come into it. I will draw out this range. You know what? I'll make it a rectangle. Actually, make it a nice little rectangle which we can look at. Okay, that's what I'll do. So we do have that. So I do definitely think I want to see a new low, okay? But if we produce a new higher low, I want to see us continue upwards. So I do think I want to target towards, maybe some sort of highs, especially if we print the weekly above this line. If we print that weekly above this line, I think it'd be a very positive thing. Because again, it's the same thing. It's like, even though the same thing we have on Bitcoin, the wicks can go into this candle, because we can go to the lower time frames and look at where the wicks actually stopped at. So for example, within this daily, it's like, oh, where'd this wick go to? But if we go to the 50-minute, or potentially maybe go to the 50-minute, I might be wrong here. But to be fair, this data happened in like 2 seconds, so we might just have wicks across the board here. Now that I'm saying this. Yeah, so we didn't really print there exactly, but what I mean? It's like in some of these certain areas, it's like, even though on the lower time frame, it's like, or the higher time frame even, we have these massive wicks. What's going on? We're not using this support properly. We've what about this weekly support? We've come even lower than 3,600. Why are we not using 3,900? But we can print at that and still use it. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I'll be watching for. So a day in 5 hours, I want to see how we print on the weekly to see if we hold support at that point on the weekly. So I think we can do that. I think we can do that strongly, and with strength, I should probably say. I definitely think we have enough time to potentially do a higher low within this move. I mean, it's not like it's a must do, but I do definitely think it's something it would be actually nice to do, because again, especially coming from this move to find resistance, we haven't really had that retracement fully yet. Coming past this high, so maybe a little bit of retracement, but I mean, even in that case, it's like we have plentiful area, not that low, not that low. So I think long term, print above the weekly support point, continue upwards. So we'll see how it goes. Obviously, not financial advice. Solana. I haven't looked at Solana, I will not lie, since we streamed. So I have no idea what it's been doing. So let's go to the daily. Let's go to the weekly, actually. So what do we have on the weekly? I think it was very similar to what we had on Bitcoin. I think maybe it's not. I don't know. We have this here. We have this black line. I think this was potentially resistance, maybe, where we came up into a point, into this, and then printed through it here, and then this resistance at 204, I think. So like, you know, we came down, we formed it with this, came through it, found resistance, and then came down. And from this resistance on the weekly, you can see we have formed obviously previous resistance here. So this is a propulsion block here. So we formed this weekly resistance on this black line, came up into it, printed through into these candles, came back into it here with this, and then came back downwards. So obviously within these two candles which get printed through, we do have resistance here as well. And obviously from here we can see we form the same thing here. And actually from the candle bodies, I'm trying this out anyway. You know what? It's actually quite good. I might start using this in the future. So again, came back into the resistance, printed through it with these down close candles. From the open anyway, you can see we use resistance again, but we came up one more time towards that weekly order block. It's supposed to be support, but it's like kind of resistance. So you know, maybe we flipped it. Actually, what I do want to see is where that midpoint is for this point here. Oh, I've already got drawn out. Idiot. So we've been okay. So we're actually kind of in range bound here. So we've been using that midpoint quite strongly because again, we haven't printed through this weekly support. So I don't really care about this top end because we're not really using this as resistance. We're using this as resistance. So I don't really care about the top end. We are holding that midpoint as support. We can see we use that midpoint as support. I think we formed them on the daily here. Yeah. So again, we are at this midpoint area pretty nicely, especially on the lower time frames. Relative, but again, it's kind of just a bit of a mess here. But I think the most important part is this midline. So we could probably even get rid of this, but I'll keep it, whatever. But mainly using that midpoint support here pretty strongly, which is nice to see. What do we have back here? Do we have anything back here? So we have kind of this down close to print upwards. So we kind of have this this candle here, especially I think from here as well. You can see you kind of come downwards and then come right back upwards and print upwards, and then find support within this wick and then come upwards. So you could potentially see something within this wick here. So what I'll do, I'll draw this across, and you can see we've kind of used that equilibrium, bit of support here, printing above it, wicked into that top end here as well. So we can kind of see a bit of support in that rejection block, but regardless, we have found support regardless and are doing higher lows. Great. So in this case, you can see, especially within this latest move, we have that higher low, we print upwards, and then this was the very good, and this is kind of what really gave confidence in this move upwards for me across the board coming into Tuesday, was falling that high, because necessarily, like in this move down, yes, we did have a high here and dump again, so technically we could use this as our print higher, but producing a new extreme high here, so we can see a nice retracement and a nice move down. This clearly is a extreme high here, and then we can see we have that low, which kind of come past all these kind of equal lows here, wicks past them, prints above them, and then pumps upwards, obviously taking these lows, and then coming upwards, printing past that high. This is a very good sign, okay? This is a good sign for this move. So we kind of have that print upwards, and then we printed downwards again. I completely didn't even see we have that. So in terms of relative to the inflow, we kind of don't really have that support. I suppose like we can maybe even pay attention to coming from this low to this high, I suppose, but actually no, I don't want to lie here, because this is the move. You know, that is technically the move realistically. So yeah, we did technically print past this low here, which is actually very. The reason I was so confident just then speaking about this, because both Bitcoin and Ethereum. Well, mainly Bitcoin anyway. Bitcoin, very similar scenario to what we have with Solana. I mean, I think most things are very similar across the board, especially with this Tuesday move. I was very confident in talking about the idea that we would print above the low, but we actually haven't. I wasn't even looking at this. So we did actually print past this low. But I suppose long term we have these lows. It depends on, in terms of long... let me just go to the daily. You know, let me just go to the daily. We have lows, we have high, we have a low, we have a high, we have a low. So it's like we haven't actually printed past this main daily high. We haven't printed a new low. I think that's the main thing I will say for this. We had these extreme lows. We haven't printed past the low. Okay, and we've had a nice retracement. So you know, and we're in support, and we are at a weekly support again. And this is the thing, and this is what I said with Bitcoin. Even though I might think X, Y, Z, we have weekly resistance. Okay, and I can't ignore that again. The last time I ignored a weekly support point, I was completely wrong in what I said, okay? So I will not make that same mistake again. We are at this weekly midpoint support. We are within the weekly support, at the high end of this weekly support. This whole range is weekly support here. And again, weekly relative to the 4 hour isn't going to be that strong for the 4 hour. So for the fact that we're in this support point and potentially want to come outwards, you know what I mean? Like, we are doing our thing, but I think long-term weekly, I want to come upwards. You know, I want to come upwards above this support. We are at resistance, but we are... I mean, again, look at how strong we're moving. I don't really care exactly what we've done. Yes, we came down, expand, you know, move, and they're not really that expansive with this, to be fair. I won't lie. As we're getting closer towards this area here, we are definitely slowing down. We've had a very expansive move and then retrace. We haven't had a main retracement into this. We have some lows here. we've had this low to the high. We haven't had much retracement here. We have massive gap here. We haven't had much retracement, like I said. So I could expect to see us move downwards. In terms of a 1 hour, I want to see what we're doing. Kind of have these equal highs here, which would be very interesting to look at. The closer we get to coming upwards anyway, that will be. What do we have? So we have this high. We kind of move upwards and then down close and then retracement and then dump downwards. So we do have potentially these two candles here as a bit of an area to focus on. So we have this open here for this up close to then down close. We did see a bit of resistance, so potentially we could see something within this candle here. We could potentially see we are a bit of resistance there, I suppose, could be something there, but I don't think it's, again, we're on the 1 hour here. It's not really going to be that much of a longer term resistance. We did also technically potentially have something here. I think I looked at this already in the idea that we could see resistance in this area here, or especially from this one here with this high. So we could potentially be seeing resistance because of this candle, but I think relatively, I think we're still on the way upwards. I do want to see if we could have a move downwards, but we can see with Solana very strongly, we have printed through this gap here very strongly, especially this balance price range here we have printed through. So for the idea that if we did want to do a high or low, which I think I would want to see, even if we have done a new low to do a high, if we are on this uptrend, because again we are in a weekly support point here, I want to see if we can do a higher low and then come upwards again and continue to go upwards for Solana. So that would entail us coming around about within this 187 area, so basically filling this area. So for the idea that we can see we just about printed into this area, retraced one more time, came upwards, we could have that move down one more time into this area, coming maybe in towards this gap area to have a higher low before we continue upwards for Solana long term. And again, same thing with this as well. Within the weekly, we are going to print very nicely at least above within that 0.5 area for this support point as well. So I want to see how we can do with this move upwards, especially if we can, if we've come past this high here for this candle. If we can print upwards above this open here for this previous candle, it would be kind of us coming out of this support point and potentially could see a bit higher for Solana. Again, though, we do have this resistance at 204, so we do have something there to pay attention to. So longer term, we could see some resistance there, but I think, as we see right now, I think I could apply a very similar thing to what we have with Bitcoin to Solana, where we could see a higher low with what we're doing right now. But especially with what we have going on, I think lower time frame, I do want to see that move downwards. For us to come upwards. So we do have some resistance areas. This is looking quite similar to what we have with Bitcoin, where we had a gap which formed as a result from coming into a gap over here. Obviously formed from us coming upwards, kind of coming downwards. We formed this resistance here from coming into this area and printed through here. Again, obviously I looked at these two candles here, but on this individual for these two candles here, and obviously coming into this gap, we found that resistance one more time before we came downwards. Obviously coming from this area, because again, like I said, I've been using these areas multiple times now just to see if it works or if it doesn't work. And we came to it one more time and then dumped. So coming from an area, obviously, of points of interest, if you will, having this gap forming on the way downwards, we could see something in here at 202. So we do have maybe something in here wicking at 204. But even then, if we're coming up into this area and printing here, we're going to be printing above 198. So I do still think, regardless if we see resistance, 194, 204 is quite close anyway. Even if we do see resistance relatively close to where we are right now for Solana, I still think it could mean good things, printing above this high, continuing upwards for Solana. So again, we will see how it goes. Daily, haven't done any negative prints, and obviously daily is going to be more of a stronger bias than 4 hour will be. And on the daily, we can clearly see we're not printing any lows right now. Even on the weekly, we're not printing any lows. So, and that goes for everything right now. So that's why some things might look negative on the 1 hour, 4 hour, but Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, right now, we haven't printed past lows just yet. Obviously, in Bitcoin's case, it's a bit different. We could be potentially printing at resistance, but in terms of Solana's case right now, in terms of we are in this weekly support point within this area here, or actually this low to this high. You can see we are in this area. We are printing higher lows. Similar with Ethereum, we are at support, printing higher lows. So I do think it is good. It's still strong, still potentially positive longer term. So moving on now, I'll quickly look at SERP, quickly on to CRO, and then hopefully not spend too much longer than 1 hour on this stream. But what I will do is go to SERP, and then we can look at. I'll look at the chat and see if anything on Square is going on. I don't think so, but maybe. Nothing's on Square. Brilliant. Okay, let me look at the chat. Everyone has their own belief. Just stick to what you believe in, and you'll receive the desired outcome. For me, I believe the market is linked to the United States QT, quantitative tightening, quantitative easing cycles. No one insider. Yeah, I mean, again, I think there's I agree. I mean, there's so many things, and whether it be fundamentals where okay, I'm trading economic situations, if you will, or economic events. Not necessarily an economic event like, oh yeah, I'm gonna have a talk with China and tell them off and everyone's dumping the market, but in terms of actual just either data coming out or consistencies with the economy, where obviously quantitative tightening, quantitative easing, but that makes more sense. And that's the thing, I think if you believe in it, like you said, the idea of again, the idea of quantitative tightening, easing, how free money is, again, that's a very over simplified, maybe stupefied way of that, but I have done economics at A-level. I'm not going to spend 5 minutes talking about quantitative tightening or easing, but that makes perfect sense. I know a lot of people look at the money flow, MF, money flow index, I think it is, money flow index. I haven't really personally looked at it myself, as of late anyway, but I mean, I think there's a lot of things you can look at which make perfect sense. Like logically, like tightening and easing, there will be a proportion of people, if affected by the policies of quantitative tightening or policy of quantitative easing, which will translate into crypto, which makes perfect sense. I think, if you're trying to day trade 15 minutes, I don't think it might necessarily aid. So I think that's where I think you can believe in anything. I just think certain beliefs can be tied to certain timeframes, for example. And I think any sort of idea, if it relates to finances, kind of loosely, if it relates to either the cycles of the economy or the positions of the economy, obviously troughs or booms or whatever period you're on in the economy, if it relates to that, I can definitely understand that relating to crypto, for sure. It makes perfect sense. It depends obviously what time frame you're relating it to, but yeah, that makes sense, absolutely. I believe it's connected to human psychology, and that's as far as I experienced. That also makes sense. Again, who's trading coins? And this is the thing. It's like, okay, who's trading this? People, all right. But as a high margin, which is trading formulaic, high frequency trading, just trading bots in general. Quant trading. This could, I don't really necessarily know if quant trading involves psychology, but I mean, there's a lot of people trading crypto, and a lot of them are people as a whole, and just individuals trading. I think it depends on what market you're in. I think there's a lot of markets where it's like, oh yeah, the people are trading, but the institutional trading is so much larger than the pie chart proportion of individuals. But I think definitely in crypto, where it depends on what position of crypto we're in. Again, I think early, like when it was just people, that is obviously, yeah, if there is something you can map out human psychology, quote unquote, to the chart and it works, I get that. But obviously as more secular, I can't say that word, you know what I'm saying though, circular, well-rounded, higher powered people get involved, it might change it, I guess. But I think it could be a running thing. But I think as a whole, again, I agree with what you mean. There's definitely a large portion of people which are people trading, and it's not bots. So, I mean, yeah, if you can map out human psychology, then I think in whatever way you do it, if you can map out human psychology, I get you could probably use that to trade. Absolutely. That's why right here, the money. I mean, the money's reason. If you can figure out a way of mapping, if there's a reason you can map the money out and you can be here, I get that, Quantitative tightening, quantitative easing. How easy it is to access money as a whole. How cheap it is to access money, I suppose. 'Cause obviously, it's a lot more about not just giving people money. Obviously, I know there was stimulus checks. Obviously, that's not really quantitative tightening, easing though. So, how cheap it is to access money and get involved. I get that. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. Absolutely go. Yeah, I know a lot of people, I look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and then I start to move on to Syrup and CRO sometimes, and then everyone leaves. And no one talks, and it's very sad, but appreciate it. Thank you very much. So anyway, Syrup, again, a quick glance here. I will end in the next coming minutes. I know I always go over. I said in the intro, though, I don't know why I bother trying to stick to 1 hour, because I always go to, I always just end up going towards an hour and 15, so it's what it is. So anyway, so what we talked about last, and I remember what we talked about last, we had this resistance area, we went past this high, kind of came downwards, we found resistance basically, and we started printing through gaps here. We started printing through these gaps here. So this obviously was a good sign. Again, we printed through this gap, came back to use it, came down, printed through this gap, came back to use it, came down, came into this gap, Obviously, I know we printed a bit lower towards the lower end of here. Came into this gap, which is the general area I talked about. About 35 cent was my main area. We also had an order block down here, I believe. Actually, I should be marking out the opens, I should say. So we came roughly into that area, 35.3, 35.1, printing about 35, 34. Obviously, I know we came down to the lows 33, but we printed this area, came into this buy area here, and now we're starting to come back upwards now. We've taken these highs so far. This obviously will be probably an interesting area for these highs. I wouldn't be surprised if we retraced. And again, I think as a whole, especially this gap, which we formed on the way downwards, which we barely filled, I think as we have taken some of these equal highs here, we have all these highs here, these equal highs, and this major high, I could expect to retrace, especially for the fact that we have this low to the high here. We haven't seen a single high or low here for a reversal. We have this gap area here. We have this down close to print through and then print through. So we have this gap here on the daily, which we printed up with this, and then printing through here. We're going to have an order block here plus this gap. So I do think maybe we could go a tiny bit higher. Again, we've just produced a little gap here on the 4 hour. We could go one bit more higher towards 39 cents. I would like to see a longer term retracement for syrup towards some higher lows over here, especially inverting this gap. You can see we inverted this gap quite nicely. You can see we've used it a tiny bit, not really used it to its full extent. So we do have some of these areas. We did have this down close into this gap, which printed upwards. You can see we used this open here as a support point. So we do have a order block here plus this gap. So I could expect us to maybe come a tiny bit higher towards this high, potentially after using this as support, finding a resistance at about nearing 40 cents, and then coming down towards about 36.6 for a higher low in this reversal. You can see we've had a low, a high, a low, and then a higher low here, or higher high in this case, to have that bit of a reversal. So I do want to see that low before we continue back upwards for this reversal for syrup, because again, long term daily, I want to see us come back up towards here, because that's the whole point. The whole point I drew this, which I've been obviously drawing quite often, is the idea of these retracements. Okay, so coming from the low to the high, having that higher low coming upwards is exactly what this move is. Okay, with the low to the high, retracement coming upwards. Okay, I don't know why I keep on saying whatever. So this is the move as a whole. That is it. Okay, I'm really angering myself. I'm not gonna say okay anymore. I made me really angry. Okay. I want to see that lower high, that higher low, to reverse and go upwards, to finally reach the high end. So syrup could be a good trade. So not financial advice. Okay, we were talking about this. Okay, this area here. You know, we were talking about here. Obviously, we did come as low as here. I will admit, obviously, I'm not penny perfect. Sometimes I am, sometimes I'm not. Okay, but we came to this area, especially printing really nicely at this area, which we drew here, real nicely here, and then start to come back upwards. So pretty good. I will say that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. Coming upwards and yeah, seeing us come upwards. So I do want to see that higher low. I want to see it come upwards. I could expect us to see a bit of support in this massive gap, which we've just formed. Massive print upwards, printing through these highs especially, and that's the most important thing I think as well, because this whole move upwards we had. Like, we came down, came upwards, printed through that low, coming upwards. This whole move upwards was still technically a downtrend. We could have seen a high here. You know, we could have seen a high here and come down one more time, but we didn't. So finally printing past this high is the important thing here, to finally start us in that uptrend. So we've just printed past that high and formed a gap to form that high. So this is going to be a very high importance area. I think this gap's going to be a very high importance. Okay, I did it again. Okay, so I do think we can retrace. Okay. I keep on saying I don't know what's going on. I don't know why I'm being jarred by this anymore, or I don't know why this is jarring me. Okay, God, I can't help it. So retrace, and then one more. I think one more move upwards, and then you know, that kind of support. That's not the best drawing, but long-term support basically coming upwards. Whatever. 46 cents. Here we come. Maybe potentially not financial advice at all. CRO. Okay. What was he talking about last? So we were here. Okay, we were here. So Tuesday. Let me see the chat. Okay, I read the chat. There's actually quite. You know what? Thank you guys. Actually, I want to say thank you to you all, because a lot of you. It's nice to actually have you guys talking about your opinions and talking about how you do things. I actually enjoy reading how you guys do things, and you're actually spending time to explain things, and I enjoy reading it. So thank you for sharing. This isn't some help group for drug addicts. You don't have to share anything like that, but you know what I mean. I will read it in a second though. I'm going to do CRO. I'm going to do CRO, and then I will read this, and then obviously we do the outro. So last time we looked at CRO, we were on Tuesday here. Okay, so we were about here. So we had these gaps. I think I was talking about these gaps here. What's this blue line? I think it must be resistance of some sort. Let me zoom out. Oh no, it's not. I'm mad. It's just the blue area. Where are we? Okay, so this is okay. So okay, I know we went past this low, but in terms of where we printed, again, this was Trump, exactly, whatever. Okay, but where we printed, we're actually not that bad of the grand scheme of things, because I drew this and I said this when we were here. I said we're gonna have a very nasty move down for CRO. Now I know my first target was 22 cent, and then I was talking about 17.5, and then we dumped, and then we came towards 6 cent and came right back up. But hey, okay, you know what I mean? We came back upwards, all right, and now we're at 15 cents, so it's not that bad. Okay, it's not that bad. So we had a nasty move down, but relative in terms of where we're printing anyway, what we're doing is fine, right? Like realistically, we're not actually that bad for CRO. Realistically. Now I know the problem is, I think the bad thing is, the actually really bad thing I just realized here, we've actually printed through this resistance here, so that actually might be something I want to watch out for. I'm gonna mark this out actually. We could have a breaker block. Just gonna mark that, because we've had this up for we had this up down down up coming into here, coming upwards. We did use this as support, and then obviously we did. You can see we can kind of printed there as well. Well, we had this gap plus order block, and this candle was perfect. Obviously, we had this. How much did we move down actually? 60%. Woof. So we actually have printed through it here, so that's actually not a great thing. I don't know why I haven't looked at that sooner. It was Tuesday though, to be fair, so it wasn't that much of data. So we do have that to pay attention to. So we did, obviously we had this gap plus resistance. We kind of filled that, came down one more time, and then we have kind of come down. We haven't printed a major low. With this low came upwards. We have done a higher low here, and we are starting to come upwards. So even though I know I was talking really negative there, we haven't quite done that yet. Even here, high or low, high, low, coming upwards. So we aren't. It's actually not that bad. You know what I'm saying? It's not that bad. Realistically, it's not that bad at all. We do have this gap. We have this daily, this something here. Oh, this main gap here. But we do have this order block in the gap. I think I marked this out quite a while ago. I'm going to move this back here quickly because I don't really want to look at it. I want to look at this main area. We have this gap plus this order block. Now I'm actually going to draw this on the open, because I'm trying it out. Okay, so we do have this gap here, which you can see we kind of came upwards, came into this gap here and filled it. Obviously came even higher for this one as well, I will say, and then dumped again through this displacement, which produced this gap, and then left it alone. We are coming upwards now, starting to try to get towards this high here. So what is this red area? I think it's probably some sort of resistance, maybe on the weekly here. Let me see what it was, on the daily, I think. What is this? This is this is, I don't know what this is actually. This is I don't know what this is at all actually. Maybe it's something I drew as support. I'm gonna delete it. I don't know what that is. Okay, and if I don't know what that is, clearly it wasn't that important. Clearly wasn't that important. So, yeah, so, okay. We have massive expansion, really nicely up so far on the 4 hour. We have this high. We kind of came up a high, a low for a high, coming downwards for a low. We didn't print a low. We came very close to. Actually, this is the main low. That's not the main low. So, high, low. So, it's coming upwards again, towards trying to get towards that high. Quite expansive, not really too much of a retracement so far. Getting towards this high, obviously wicking past it here, but not really too much resistance. Again, it was a very small gap here. We did see a bit there, but we had Friday's data, which wicked us all the way upwards and wicked us all the way back downwards. We're obviously trying to get past it now. Not really too much. We have a little bit of a gap here. We have a little bit of a gap here, which is good as well for us. Also, these triple lows here. So I actually think this is going to be a very important area right there for. As you can see, low, low, low. I definitely think we're going to come towards these lows for sure, 100%. So I think we can continue upwards. I think that'll be a good thing for us to do. Now, I will say we haven't had a main retracement yet, really, for CRO. We could try to maybe go towards these highs. I think that's something we're maybe trying to do across the board as well, where we kind of have we kind of need that. We need that high to do the low, but obviously we're already at resistance, so. You know what I mean? There's a bit of a balance there, but I do think we are going to want to see somewhere up here, especially for a new high, coming upwards towards here. So I definitely think CRO is probably in a good scenario right now, coming upwards towards this order block. I definitely think this could be a good area for a new high. I definitely think CRO is starting to come upwards. Again, there's nothing really on the daily, on the weekly, on the 4 hour, which is really starting to concern me. Everything is up really. Obviously, we had this major low, I know. Then we had this bit of a move downwards. But we have this low, we have this high, we have a higher low, we're starting to get up towards this high. So this is the last step. And I think what's different between CRO and everything else so far from what I've seen, obviously, SERP's in a different scenario. The CRO difference between what we have similar across the board is it doesn't really have that much resistance, and we haven't really started to see anything crazy. We've already printed past this, like this gap is quite consistent on every chart. We have this massive move upwards, found resistance, printing through it. We have this gap on Bitcoin, Ethereum, I think, and Solana. We have it across the board. But we've printed through it already, and not just the gap. The entire thing, we've come through it. So I think CRO's gonna have a very easy time getting towards this high. There's not much resistance here. We have these equal lows, these like 3 equal lows and this gap. I do definitely think we could continue upwards one more time in this entire area, have a small retracement here, have a move upwards. I think instead of us seeing a new low, I think we'll easily do a new high and then see us continue upwards for CRO. Obviously, we have this weekly potential here, which might not be great, but it depends on how we print, I guess. I mean, we did technically print through it here, but I mean, even if we go to if we don't see support resistance there and go towards about the midpoint, it's still even towards this gap area where that order block is. So we'll see how it goes. Again, I will be here on the stream before we might even see that as an issue, but hey, I guess it might not be too much of a difficult thing. I mean, we even saw resistance there already. I mean, we've already seen resistance there, so I don't really know why. It's not even that bad, I suppose. We've probably already reversed it anyway. Actually, you know what? I'll do one more thing before I read the chat. I want to see where the midpoint of it is. I just want to see. Okay, right, so it's there. Yeah, so we kind of printed through it and found resistance at the high, came down, and we've already seen resistance at it before. But even coming up towards it, we could see resistance towards the higher end of it, towards 16. So it's kind of on and off. I mean, but even with this move, it's not necessarily down to this. It's more down to this massive gap we had here. And from there, we haven't really seen much difficulty at the midpoint, difficulty at the low end. So even then, it's like I don't really want to look at that on the weekly because it's not really being well respected. I don't even know why I have this drawn, to be fair, because it's not like we've come into an area of interest. Apart from maybe this not even. I don't even know why I have this drawn, to be fair. So yeah, hey, all right, maybe I'll just ignore it, I guess. So anyway, up for CRO, I think. Pretty positive. I guess we'll come. I think we'll come upwards. I don't think we have too much difficulty here. I think we can come upwards. Even if we look at the 1 hour, I don't really think there's much on the 1 hour here. Not really. I mean, we had this high. We've used this high. We had this massive high, obviously here. Obviously printed through it perfectly fine, producing obviously all these lows in that gap. But I think we'll see some support there. You can see we're kind of slowing down on the 1 hour, starting to slow down a tiny bit, maybe on the 15-minute. But this is just. I think all this will really be for us to get towards this gap and actually have. Because again, we've been going up the entire time. Every single one of these candles since Friday 24th has been up close. So I definitely think we can have a small retracement here. Just like this, as a very small retracement, not that big of a move downwards. This was from the highs to the low at least about 2.85. From the highs to the low here, about 3.3, whatever. So I definitely don't think it'll be that bad. It'll be a relatively small retracement before we expand higher again. So I definitely think we can reach higher, at least towards 16 cent. I think high. Obviously, I'm trying out open. I would have it here. To be fair, I would have it here, but I'm going to try out looking at the opens instead because it might be a bit more consistent for me. So coming into this gap for sure, I think we could see a new high. Like I said, I'm trying to finalize this before I read the chat and say goodbye. I think we could have that higher high before we see that major low. So if we have that higher high, we can retrace into this area easily, have that higher low, and continue upwards. But again, obviously, we want to be careful about longer term resistances and whatnot, and especially on the weekly here, we've already formed this gap here. So coming up towards about 17.5 cents, we'll have a massive, big old weekly gap here. So this will be uptrend for like the 4 hour daily. Weekly, I want to see how we get how we get by about 17.5 cents. I want to see how we get there. But I think as of right now, we can focus on what we're doing right now, which is that uptrend. So pretty positive. So thank you. There we go. Thank you all of you for watching. Appreciate you all. I'm going to read the chat because there's quite a bit of chat here. Let me see. Okay, I'm ready for this chat. It's not about the influence of traders, human brain psychology. Traders on general affect the market by approximately 2%. It's how banks and institutions use it against you, though. Yeah, no, I agree with that. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Because I mean, that's what I was saying. It's like, the proportion of individuals versus what could potentially be considered institutional investment. Obviously, I think it's like it depends on how much that ratio is in crypto versus just standard futures, let's say. And I think obviously it might not be as much in crypto, but I still think it takes part. But yeah, I agree with that completely. Yeah. Yeah. Crossfreak. Psychologically triggering bias. Okay, I get you, man. I get you. I agree with you about psychology, but it's controlled by where money goes, where you can make your money. Crypto is only part of the big money cycle, and quantitative easing marks movements. Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good economic marker for what's to come, if you will. So it's like, I think the conversion rate between a strong quantitative easing from a tight scenario, I think it could translate. It depends on how much. It depends on what situation the market's already in. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, are we already tight? Are interest rates, for example, are they really high? Obviously, in certain market scenarios, it's different, right? So to ease that, I think it depends how much you ease it by, and the ratio of that going into trading. You know what I mean? But I think there's definitely there's 100% a conversion rate. So using that idea to mark out what you would expect to happen in the future for crypto, I definitely could see the link for sure. So yeah, I definitely see that the translation between a easing market versus how much people actually trade. So yeah, I get that. Thank you, great TA. Thank you, appreciate you, Mags. Thank you very much. Thank you. Not much to CRO TA on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, I try to do things like Syrup, for example. We talk about Syrup a lot. We talk about CRO a lot. So it's only fair I do actual TA on it. So I try and fit stuff in. Obviously, I did a lot. I did sometimes do XRP and Sui and whatnot. But as you can see, in my time anyway, it's 10:25. I try and do an hour, and I'm 25 minutes over. So I'm not great at keeping to times. I'm not great at closing my mouth and stopping talking. I talk a lot, so you know what I mean. It's hard for me to do 20 coins when I talk so much about each coin. So I try to do things which we actually talk about. We talk about Syrup a lot. We talk about CRO a lot. So yeah, and yeah, like you said, it's not that many people. I know what's his name? The other guy. The guy with the overalls. I can't remember his name. I think he might. Does he do? I don't know if he does CRO TA. I don't watch him, but he might do something. I don't know. But in terms of people who do TA, who do CRO, I don't know if there's that many. Again, I haven't really looked. I never look. I don't really watch people doing TA. I just do my. In crypto anyway. I don't really. I mean, sometimes I'll talk to Mike about it, and sometimes I might watch it. Yeah, Coin Baron. That's the one. Coin Baron. I don't know if he does TA on anything, but I don't watch crypto TA as a whole really. You know what I mean? I don't really watch. So I don't really know if anyone does CRO. But obviously, like you said, if not that many people do CRO, I'm glad I can be of service. Let's see if anyone on Square said anything. All right. The tumbleweed that is Square. Make you co-host. No. I don't want to do that. Future signals. Long everything. Ain't trying to go on Bitcoin soon. I do want to see if I want to get into a trade. I've obviously been waiting for it to go upwards. We've been going upwards. I want to see how we do. Again, I'm going to wait for it. So I'll keep you posted. And I think Cheetah was actually asking for updates. But again, I do want to. I don't have one going on right now. I was looking earlier. I was looking yesterday. I was looking earlier today. I had a short actually because we were in an uptrend on the 1 hour, right? And I was gonna do. I was actually watching the charts. I was gonna do something. I was like, and I hadn't looked at the market calendar, and I didn't know if anything was going on. I didn't realize. I forgot to think about it, and it was a perfect scenario. I was like, here we go. And I didn't get into anything because we hadn't formed yet. And then we pumped during Friday. I was like, oh, right, okay. And then I looked at the calendar. I was like, oh, right, okay, we had data. But I did want to short it because, again, we were in a clear uptrend on the 1 hour, and we had this massive move. I messaged Mike about it. It's pretty funny, but I was going to do something then. But obviously, I couldn't really. I just couldn't bother. I knew if data's coming out, I just can't bother. Right? Even though we did continue to go back downwards, I couldn't bother. But I do have something. I'll see if I can send a message. If I do get into something relatively soon, as I watch Bitcoin, then I'll send a message in Telegram. I've made watching all aspects of the market my part-time job. I mean, yeah, if this is... that's the thing, it's like, it's not like you're watching something which doesn't yield you any benefit or any sort of profit. So, I mean, you know, it's like... I definitely think you can consider it a part-time job. It's a profitable part-time job. If you can get it consistent and get something which works, and you watch it as a whole, whether it be economical or the actual charts, or watching people watch the charts, and it be of benefit, oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, okay, I'm gonna end the stream. All right, I'm gonna end the stream. Thank you, all of you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for talking. I appreciate you all for watching. I'll be back on Wednesday, potentially Tuesday. I'm recording Monday, so I don't know if I have anything today. I want to see if I can stream Tuesday, and I want to see if it could be. Mike doesn't want me. Mike said, "Oh, don't bother streaming Tuesday. We'll stream Wednesday." But I want to see if we can maybe just do Tuesday and get something sorted for Tuesday with a little bit of a talk with a certain somebody. Okay, so I'll see how that goes. But I am recording Monday, so I won't be here on Monday to stream. So I won't be here, but I'll be back on Wednesday, obviously, with the quiz. I'll be back on Thursday for sure with the next stream. Obviously, I know that's a bit of a gap. If something really crazy happens or anything like that, I'll try to keep it posted. Again, I did send the link to my charts on the trading area. I don't know if I pinned it actually. The thing I don't like about that, I can share my profile on TradingView. You can just go to any coin. You can go to CRO. You can go to Bitcoin. Most coins are on Binance. If you want to look at Syrup, it's on MEXC. I'm not affiliated with MEXC. Obviously, I know I'm on Binance Square right now. Not affiliated with anybody. Okay. Do not turn me off and assassinate me. But I think if you want to go find out, if you want to just look at the chart I have and look at what I have. Obviously, I know it's better for me to talk about it, so you actually know what it all means. But if you just want to go look at the chart, you can go to the link there. But I will send messages if something happens during the period, and I haven't streamed yet. So keep you guys posted. Thank you, all of you. Appreciate you all. Have a great rest of your weekend. Okay, have a great rest of your morning. Have a great sleep if it's 12 a.m. and you need to go to sleep. I know Kishan, it's bedtime. So have a great sleep. If it's the morning, have a great rest of your day. And that's all I have to say. Thank you. Keep you guys posted. I will be uploading that Monday video hopefully soon. I'll obviously get it sent to Mike. I think I'm interviewing Wham. So if you guys are interested in Wham and you want to hear about them, I'll be interviewing them. So do keep that in your mental notes, I suppose. See you guys next time. Thank you. I have nothing else to say. Goodbye.